All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is a new edition of our weekly live call-in show, philosophy show, that we do every week here on Wednesdays at 4:30 Eastern to about 6:30 or 7, depending on who's waiting in line, who's calling in, and how long we're talking, and so on. And sometimes we go even beyond that on rare occasion. But it's good to see you back here. I I have pinned the comment at the very top of sorry, I pinned the comment at the very top of the chat box. So as you know anything about live streams, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you've been on here before, you know how this drill goes. But just as a reminder, this is open for anybody to call in, anybody in the world. We've had people from Germany, Australia, the United Kingdom, and anywhere in the US. We have people from all over really calling in. And then so you don't have to create an account on my StreamYard studio. You just click that link, it comes right into my studio. and then what do we talk about? Well, we talk about anything you want to talk about. We can, as long as it's philosophical, and lucky for you, philosophical topics range quite broadly. So anything, let me just kind of just show you what I mean here. I will show you the description to this video that you're watching right now, which you can look at it yourself. But here's some past episode topics right here, or call-in topics. Many people do love to talk about atheism. Many people do like to talk about more relativism or meta-ethics. We've even had politics in recent episodes because of the killing of Charlie Kirk, and then many stuff about like RCIA, faith, belief, Christianity, Catholicism. So really, it's up to you. And like I say here, it's fairly broad with respect to classical Greek historically, all the way up to contemporary analytic stuff, or maybe Eastern traditions, or anywhere across the spectrum. Again, I'm not an expert in all these things. I do talk about that right here. Just because I'm a philosophy PhD doesn't mean I know everything. And again, note that this is a discussion, it's not a debate. So if you want to come on and have an idea that you want, it's just what the thing says. It's office hours. So it's just like you would with your professor. I would sit here. Otherwise, I would just sit here and just eat my snacks or something like that. Imagine your professor sitting in office hours just waiting for you to come by. This is what this is. This is you just come in with a topic that you want to shoot the breeze, and then we kind of hammer it out to the best of our ability, and we kind of work with it. So I'll stop sharing that. Yeah. So this has been really terrific over the past few months that I've been doing this. It's gotten really high praise, and I think that people, not that I'm a guru and I'm helping them solve their life problems or anything, but I think it's been received very warmly and very well, because many people just want to get on here and they don't want that hostile nature, and I am the same way. It's not about a debate. It's not about, hey, I'm going to prove you wrong or anything like that. I think we have enough of that in our culture. So this is a place to just come here, really low pressure, and just talk things through. So if that seems like your speed, like it seems like my speed, like it seems my viewer's speed, then absolutely get up on here and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Now, until somebody comes, we're still waiting on our first guest. I want to share with you a little bit of what has been going on with me over the past week since we last met. Last night was date night. We went to this thing at the Hippodrome, Water for Elephants. I don't know if you guys seen this, or there's apparently a movie. It's a Broadway musical, Water for Elephants. Super stunning spectacle. It began as a book, bestseller, New York Times bestseller, and apparently a movie. My wife was telling me, had Robert Pattinson in it. Apparently, had no idea. I just I knew it was a book, and then I was like, oh, let's go to this. It has trapeze artists and stuff. That looks cool. It's like a circus thing. Um, and that was super duper cool, because the Hippodrome in did I say Waco? There is a Hippodrome in Waco. The Baltimore Hippodrome is really fantastic, and just historically just gorgeous, man. The insides, I don't know if pictures even do it justice. You really have to be there to see it. It was just a stunning location, stunning venue. And to know that's right in our city is really, really nice. But we did not stay the whole time because, we're old people. I can't say that actually, because like most of the people there were old, because like going to a theater show is like not a very common thing. I was like talking to my son last night, and I was like, yeah, we went to a play, you know. It's like sounds super weird because yeah, people did it historically. The only reference I had for him is like, you know how Abraham Lincoln got assassinated and he was at a play, you know? My wife was like, why would you say that? And it's like, well, that's the only reference that he would probably have to people going to the plays in old times. And it's like their movie entertainment and stuff. So, yeah, like nobody ever goes anywhere. So you did have like a lot of like old money, a lot of like wealthy people, Baltimoreans. We just got like $9 tickets in one of the side wings and were able to sneak in. And, but I do have the critical thing here. We didn't stay, not just because it was late and we were getting tired. And we were like, enough of this, and we still need dinner. We left at like past 10, but also because this story, guys, this is believe it or not, the woman that runs off with the protagonist here. Spoiler alert: she's a married woman, and then once I realized that her husband is not getting her back, and I was like, oh, that's what this is about. I was like, I'm just not interested in that storyline anymore. So as fun of a spectacle as it was to see all the people jumping around, and then also her husband's name is August in the story, I realized, man, they're throwing him under the bus because he had every right. They were like glancing at each other, flirting, playing eyes and everything. He had every right to be angry, obviously, because he hired this dude to come on to his production. The husband is like the ringmaster. Dude comes on, steals his wife, and of course he's angry. But then they make the guy into a villain, and I'm like, what? I was like, immediately, I just knew. I didn't even remember the cover image here of them embracing. I just thought this was some random chick. I don't know the characters yet or the people. So I just immediately, when I realized, oh, they're making him into a villain, even though he's like justifiably angry, I'm like, nah, not. I don't really care for this anymore. So anyway, that was fun. And then yeah, and then yeah, I'm not been sleeping well either. Not that you guys care to hear about this, but yeah, I've not been sleeping very well, and so I've had some back issues that I never talk about, but I I had an MRI, and I've seen a pain and spine specialist for like twice in the last 2 weeks. So it's some serious, like chronic serious pain. So most people don't talk about their pain. Some people do, and I'm not one of the people that usually do, but I mention it because it's kind of been like, I don't know about this. I kind of had like a whole wasted day, and then a whole wasted day yesterday trying to do video stuff. This is another update, by the way. I do have that new scripted video coming out. I told you guys last time that, let me share my screen here. I told you guys last time that I would have a video coming out. Let's go to my channel here. On my interview, on my view on depression. So that is now out, is an interview video with Joshua Yin. You can see that here. It's posted 6 days ago, only has a few views. I think that people get on and don't realize that it's actual interview video, and maybe they're just kind of like taken aback. They're like, I'm not really interested in that, but I encourage you to go look it out if you're interested in my research areas. Want to know more about stuff, and I also encourage you, let me bring you here. If you haven't done this already, actually, you can get to it by going up to more, and then my academic website, clicking on that. And you can see, if you go to the research tab, you can see some of my publications, not up to date, but then dissertation right here. You can see the dissertation work as well. So along with that Josh Yen video, you can kind of see, and I like a good visual, make a visual case for this. So I've got a lot of beautiful Western art in here about depression, and despair, and Acadia. Acadia is the deadly son of sloth. Just all sorts of wonderful things in here. Dark Night of the Soul. Yeah, and just some beautiful, beautiful stuff. I've got some stuff in here on despair and Kierkegaard or heavy-mindedness. There's all kinds of stuff, even appendix here. So if you're interested in that sort of theme, that thing, and definitely if you'd like to see more videos on that, getting into the actual content of that material, then I would love to do those for you if there's interest. I anticipate doing that eventually, but if there's enough interest, I could do that sooner rather than later. In any case, that video with Josh Yen is an interview. He interviews me about some of the dynamics with respect to what we viewed depression as before and what we can go forward with, and conceptualizing depression in a really multifaceted way, because obviously the major, most dominant model of depression these days is a biochemical model. So this is challenging that. And I did have a few comments on that video saying, I don't know about this. I do think depression is biochemistry. And anyways, so if you like that, if you like that conversation, if you want to come on and talk about that here, then by all means. And also I mentioned that there would be a new scripted video coming out on contradictions, and just to update with respect to that, I am working on that. The script is done. I started to record and then like ran into like stupid trouble with it. Like some things I'd been doing for over hundreds of times, like was no longer working, and I had to troubleshoot things, and like I was at it for like 2 hours, 4 hours, and I eventually was like, I got to work on this a different day. So that was really frustrating. And so that kind of slowed me down, minus 1 day of production. Of course, still we're doing midterms in the middle of the semester now as well. So I'm like prepping study guides, prepping the midterm exam, still holding class and grading assignments and so on. So it'll get out eventually. It's just, unfortunately, I lost a day. So be on the lookout also for that video soon to come out on contradictions whenever it gets done. I don't know if it'll be this week or beginning of next week, maybe. So, all right. We do have Connor visiting us. Connor, welcome back. Good to see you.
Howdy, and, can you hear me all right?
I can. Maybe it's just me.
Is there an echo?
Okay, that's better. Yeah. I had to turn you down. I didn't realize my volume was too far up. And by the way, hi, Cameron. Sorry, I didn't want to miss you out there. I don't know when you said that several minutes ago, but anyway, Connor, good to see you, man.
Good to see you. How are you doing today? I'm doing well.
I'm good. I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, I went to the gym, which was good this morning, so that was nice. And now I'm here for the philosophy discussion, so I'm excited.
Nice, good. Man, I need to get to the gym, and maybe not. I've tried that, and it's just like I'm to the point of like intermittent fasting and then walking. And if I could just do that, like for me, it's like I'm really low metabolism and I gain a lot of weight. So I need to like, if I could just be active and eat less, then that's usually enough for me. But again, as I get older, I do want to look like Brock Lesnar, but I'm not going to do that by doing what I'm doing. So
yeah, my dad is. I've worked out with my dad since I was in high school, and he'll go like, depending on how he's feeling, like if he's injured. My dad had a very severe accident when he was younger, so he has some like lingering injuries from that. But also like how much time he has outside of work. But he's starting a new, like, he wants to like do a push at the gym before the end of the year, just because like starting now, Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's sort of happen at a good time to like kind of relax that and then start back up again at the beginning of the next year. So like this is a good time to start, is in his estimation. So he convinced me. So
that's good to anticipate that, because a lot of people, myself included, will pack on pounds during that period. Unintentionally.
I have a hard time. Because I'm very routine oriented, and I like to have a routine, and the holidays are great and I love them, but they disrupt my routine, which makes it harder for me to like the week after Thanksgiving to go back to the gym. It's a lot harder than the week before Thanksgiving. So, and I will have to, before next time, I'll have to check out the video about depression, because I do have depression. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and I'm obviously very interested. And one of the reasons why I go work out is because of the mental benefits of it. I find that it helps me feel a lot better. So
there's a big meta study that was done showing that there's one thing that you can do which is better and more effective, if not more effective, then at least as effective as taking antidepressants, and that's exercise. And it'd be like, even if it's like 30 minutes a day or 30 minutes every 2 days or something, it would be as effective, if not more effective, in taking an antidepressant. So exercise is a really powerful, not silver bullet, but it's a really powerful. towards it. Yeah.
I'm working on my like grand unified theory of like how you should act in every given situation. And I think like being balanced is the conclusion I've come to. And I think working out is an important part of like, I don't know. I personally, I enjoy it. I enjoy weightlifting, and I have for a long time. And so that's one of the reasons why I find it enjoyable. I do have a hard time. Like there's always something else that I could be doing instead. And so I have a hard time making time. But
yeah, that's where the structure comes in, honestly.
yeah.
Because I with the walking for me, I was starting to do it during the summer before getting back to school where I have more structure. But during the summer, I would like, okay, whenever I wake up, I'm going to go walk for 45 minutes or something, or like long ways. And then, and that was really helpful. But then school started and I had to figure out something different. So usually in class, like, and this also has a double benefit of not having to pay for a parking pass on campus, like in those garages, like, because they're expensive, they're like $400, $500, $600. And so for a semester, for a year, and so I'm just like, forget that. So I park really far off campus into residential areas where like nobody's parking. It'll be like a mile over a mile away, and so that is part of my routine now, and that forces me to walk like a mile there and a mile back. The only problem is like if it messes with my back and my carrying my backpack, but that's where I'm forcing myself to do it. And so the structure I've already had built in is working for me. I'm making it work for me. But if you don't, I feel you the same way on the structure stuff.
Yeah, it's like with habituation and like ethics and character. Like I have to make choices that make it easier for me to make the right choices in the future. And I find that sort of framing to be very helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what it is, because physical virtue is like such a great parallel and example of moral virtue. And I use that all the time. I wish I would like use it more in my life and be like, oh yeah, physical virtue, we still need those, we need excellences, we need to exercise and work out. But like we do live in like this world where it's easy, especially with our screens, to like bifurcate. I know it is for me, like especially in the philosophical mindset, just to bifurcate the body from the mind and just think, as long as I'm smart and keeping sharp, I mean, that's good, do that, but it can fall to the wayside, and I've packed on, in the last year, I've probably packed on like 20 pounds more than I need to. Since I've been married, I've packed on another 20 pounds in the past couple of years.
I had a professor of mathematics in college, and I think I may have mentioned this last time, but we did a lot of work with Secretariat, like some of the numbers of these races, and we were like, why do you like Secretariat so much, sir? And he was like, I like excellence. And that made perfect sense to me. And like I was like, that like changed the way I think about things in like a very profound way.
Good point. Yeah.
Because it's like, and so like Secretariat, like I don't know how much you know about Secretariat.
He's like a Triple Crown winner, but then was he like the first, or just really excellent example of it?
Just particularly excellent, probably the greatest racehorse who's ever lived. The record that he set in the 1973 Belmont Stakes, I believe, is unbroken to this day, and it's 36 and a half lengths, which is like the length of a horse, is how much he won by. So like my professor sent us a video of this after this class, and you watch the cameras on Secretariat, and when he crosses the finish line, it physically pans back for like a second or two before it gets to the next horses that are in like a group. And so it's very impressive. And I like that. Yeah. Like being able to appreciate excellence in like a variety of circumstances, I think is kind of.
I've actually never even seen the movie, so maybe I should watch the movie as well.
The movie was pretty good. I liked it when I was a kid.
Yeah. But yeah, this excellence in all things, and that's probably why I was just going to raise the example of sports as well. That's probably why we love sports. Like we love watching high levels. At college, it's a bit different. It's a little bit of paradoxical nature to it, because if you're watching like NFL, you're watching it because it's the best of the best. But college, obviously, they're
Yeah.
not the best of the best. So there's this extra added element of like faithfulness and just fidelity to the team itself. Whether you're an
Yeah.
alumnus or whatever, or it's your region. That's like more
Yeah.
present than in like the highest pro leagues. So that's a weird kind of human element added, but most of the time we
Yeah.
really love excellence. Yeah.
Yeah. I yeah. I've been thinking a lot about like what are things for, and I think that like sports are. I guess I was talking about this with my parents and my sister about like
Mm-hmm.
what the ideal sports league would look like and like how we can structure our society to be more ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that there's like a lot of very important things that you get from sports, but I do think like excellence is one of those things. And
Yeah.
so like professional sports can be optimized for excellence, whereas like
Mm-hmm.
collegiate sports can be optimized for like other returns, like activity, community,
Yeah.
things of this nature.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like excellence is not a feature itself. It's like I mean, it's a collective feature. You know what I mean? So like, if I'm
Mhm.
saying excellence in sports, what I mean by that, obviously, I can mean things like speed, acceleration, agility. Everything that involves their craft. Um, but I could also think like, well, they're excellent with respect to other certain virtues, because that's just what a virtue is. Is the
Yeah.
the Greek word arete translates to virtue, but also
Mhm.
just means excellence, literally. So,
Yeah.
so a virtue just is an excellence. So, humility is an excellence of human morality, or
Yeah.
truthfulness is an excellence with respect to human speech. So you can find those excellences that aren't physical excellences also that aren't unique to sports, but yeah, so excellence is in those regard as well. You would find in sports, and that a lot of people love that too, because my colleague Sabrina Little does a lot of work in this area because
Mm.
she has her doctorate from Baylor as well as me. We overlapped there. She's a really wonderful person. She just had her third child.
Oh,
She's now
nice.
professor at Ohio State University. She's like
Oh,
knocking it out of
wow.
the park. And also,
Yeah.
she is an ultra marathoner. So
Okay.
she at one time she held the national record for the longest distance run in a 24-hour period for women.
Wow.
And it's like
That's
over
insane.
120 miles. So like
That's
in
crazy.
24 hours, her husband was having to like drive ahead of her and like hand her peanut butter and jelly
Okay.
sandwiches and stuff like this entire
Yeah.
route trip. So like insane endurance. And so she actually her academic work in philosophy has to do with virtues and especially like where they
Mm.
intersect with sports. So if you're interested in this stuff,
Okay.
yeah. So excellence is not just physical, but like also moral character excellence is. That's like
Yeah.
her wheelhouse. She does really great work in there.
Yeah. I'm. You said her name was Sabrina Little. I just want to.
Yeah, yeah. Sabrina Little. I'll put it in the chat box
Okay.
as well.
Okay. Because I would like to learn more about that. My dad goes to the gym like
Mm-hmm.
often, and he has like the other old man at the gym that he's friends with, and one of
Mm-hmm.
them was getting a PhD in like sports
Oh, interesting.
sort of medicine and that kind of stuff. Um, and
Yeah.
it was very interesting. And so I think that's an important. I'm not very into. I've never particularly been interested in sports,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think that that's a means to for which people can like exhibit virtue, and so I think that's an important thing that should be considered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny. Nathan here says I'm more a fan of Sabrina Biggs' work myself, which is really hilarious. Not for the reason you think it is, Nathan, because her name actually used to be. I think it was her maiden name means big in another language or
Oh,
great.
thanks.
I
So
think it
funny.
was. It starts with an M. It's like I forget. It's not Moreau, but it's something like that. I forget the name, but she always made a joke about that. She's like, once I was this, and now I'm this. Um, and yeah, it's really hilarious. And so yeah, she's a terrific person. She has a book that is Oxford University Press book, which is like golden standard academic publishing. That's called The Examined Run, which is
Okay.
a play on I think it's Aristotle's The Exam. It might be Socrates. The examined life is not worth living.
Yeah.
So philosophers like, the unexamined life is not worth living. So philosophers like to talk about the examined life, and so this is a play on
Yeah.
that. She calls the book The Examined Run, and so it's about character in sports. It's really great.
Okay. Right on. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah.
I think my dad would appreciate it. So it's the
Absolutely.
season. I'm
Yeah.
looking for Christmas gifts for people. So
Yeah, and honestly, that one may be pricey because of the publisher, but she does have a lot of work. I mean, if it's a gift, that's one thing, but if
Yeah.
you're just interested in like reading her, she does write articles like on. There's a blog, a running blog called I Run Far blog or
Okay.
something like that. And she's also written in Runners Magazine. She's like endorsed by
Okay.
Hoka. She's got
Oh, wow.
sponsorships and stuff, like as an athlete. Like she's the real deal. So
That's
she writes in
cool.
all these different venues as well. Yeah.
Right on. Right on. Yeah. I can keep chatting if you want.
Yeah. So we don't have
is there someone else?
here.
This,
It's
okay.
funny. Nathan also says here, I like to say that examined life is not worth living. that would be unfortunate. For some people, it's like it's funny because of the melancholy state that one arrives at because one has examined his own life. It's like, oh crap, this existence sucks, or something like that. Yeah. So if you like, there's it, ignorance is bliss. Yeah. If you just don't examine it, there might be a lot of joy in that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think too much about things that aren't important, and things that are important, but
yeah. Well, let's wrap this up, and then if anybody else wants to jump on, we'll do that as well. But man, it was great to hear from you, Connor. As always, do come back, please.
Yeah, I love coming on. So I kind of forget every week that this happens, and then I open my phone and it says like, it's upcoming, and I'm like, yes. So
good, man. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. So, all right, man, we'll come back next time, and we'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Yeah, it's so funny because I sometimes not forget, but it's funny. I'll just say this: it's a relief, a welcome relief to know that people do want to see this show and do want to participate as well, because I do want participants, and just to know that they're like, oh man, that's coming up again, I want to see that. It's kind of foreign to me because like here's the thing, I'm used to working with students, and not all of my students are like that. Some are. I've got actually one of them in the chat. Hey Fortune, this is Andrew. He's now a law student at Creighton University. He's a 1L. So massive respect, and congratulations to him. He's doing really great work, and he's been helping me a lot with the stuff I still do. So we really maintain a friendship, and I really appreciate him. But I'll answer your question here in a sec. But anyway, that's Andrew. And so students like him, are like gonna love this stuff, and but a lot of students just won't. And so maybe I get in my own headspace of like, well, even though I've got now over 1,000 subscribers, which is nice, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know, like if I'm gonna show up this week, if people are gonna appreciate it. But I'm also I know the other side of me is like, I really need to be consistent no matter what, because I just need to do the work. And this is the good lesson to remember, because sometimes, I mean, just when I was writing my dissertation, I can't just like not do the work because I don't feel like it. You have all these like motivational people saying, if work only ever got done because people felt like doing it, it would just never get done. So, so I have to keep that mindset. And, yeah, 1K subs, time to monetize. Yeah, well, not quite yet, because they have I don't know, it may be different for you. You monetize a ways back, but they now include public watch hours, and I'm still kind of struggling with that, like to get up over the hump of people actually watching. It's good to have subscribers, but it's also good to have people watch your stuff, and that's where I'm kind of lacking here. And I could see. So I did it. Here's a little bit of advice, by the way. I when it comes to building a channel, this is not what the channel's about, but just from my own experience and my own uh, uh, wisdom here and what I've learned, I have noticed like I started doing a lot of shorts in conjunction with um, the long form videos and live streams and so on. Having just shorts, having a ton of shorts gets you a lot of subscribers, but it doesn't get you a lot of watch time. And so my idea was to take, so there's two schools of thoughts. It's like do shorts because it drives traffic to the long form, and then you get subscribers, and then you also get people watching your long form. You're driving the traffic there with the shorts because shorts have amazing, insane reach. But the other school of thought is don't do shorts at all because the subscribers you get aren't going to watch your long form stuff. They only watch the short form stuff. So I was in the first school of thought, and now I'm in the second school of thought because I am getting a lot of subscribers, or was, but now I'm not getting a lot of. I wasn't getting a lot of like watch hours. So anyway, now I'm at the point of like maybe I'm not doing shorts anymore, if that helps. So anyway, so let's see. Oh, hey, there's my mom. Everybody say hi to everybody. Say hi to Kelly. That's my actual mom. So hey, mom. All right, let's see. Yeah, so she said, "Isn't that what the Jesuits do on a regular basis?" I forget what this was in reference to. I'm gonna try to jog my memory. I think it was in something we said towards the end of our conversation, but you'll have to jog my. Maybe you can text me about it later, Andrew. Appreciate you reviewing Civ Pro and watching the stream. Cool. Yeah, Andrew's in the middle of his midterms as well right now. Yeah, consistency is the best, as Cam says here. Even if you don't actually want to do it, sometimes it's best just to do it. I used to compare it to I used to say this, like when I was writing my dissertation, I need to have the same idea with respect to this. Like, sit your butt in the seat. I even give this advice to my students, and sometimes it's hard to follow your own advice. Not that you're a hypocrite, but like, have you ever tried to just follow your own advice? It's really difficult, especially when you're getting to the mood of like just not feeling like it. So is this a Christianity thing, not a philosophy thing? They're not mutually exclusive, because a lot of the greatest philosophers were Christians, by the way. And then we've got P does in fact equal not P. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. It's the first time I've seen that guy. So welcome, but I don't know what he means. The examines for the Jesuits comment. I'll have to figure out what you're referring to. Yeah, so yeah, even if no one's watching, just push through. I'll do that. Thank you for that encouragement, and thank you for all of your encouragement. But we now have another guest in here, the famous, the unrivaled, the now freshly shorn Nathan. Welcome back, man. How are you doing?
I've clearly become a Buddhist monk, and so that's why. If I'd become a Catholic monk, then I would have gone for the center bit.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm right. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Yeah, we are just around midterms for the semester, and I'm on top of things, which is great. A little behind on the grading, but it'll get to it. But with as far as exam prep and classes, that's all going really well. I say that because I know what it's like to be behind in that stuff, and I'm not behind in that stuff, which is really nice. And everything else, I can't complain. My wife's back in town. She's a little sick since she's been back, but it's just a little minor cold. So we're doing really well here. How about you?
Nice. I got a puppy.
Did you?
My girlfriend now, but it's been a nightmare, just pooing everywhere and eating all my stuff and constantly.
Get rid of it. Get rid of it. It's not worth it, right?
Yeah, no. Well, it's very cute, but it does feel so much more peaceful with it not around. But
yeah, it is a payoff, the trade-off here. Yeah, I had dogs my whole life, and then my wife is allergic, so I had to like make that trade-off, and I was like, I like you more than I like dogs, as much as I like dogs, and I haven't missed them as much as I thought I would. This is not advocating for not having dogs. I still like them, and I still am to the point of any time where with a friend or a neighbor who's like walking their dog or bring their dog over or something like that, I'm like, yes, please, this is my dog therapy. But it's also really nice not to have to clean up anything, not to have to like
Yeah.
go outside if I don't want to. So yeah.
Yeah, it's constant, especially when they're that young as well, because
Yeah.
it's weird because all of their sort of tendencies in their behavior aren't human as well. So like the way that they're dealing with their emotions is sort of by like nipping at things and chewing and stuff, but you can't overinterpret that as aggressive behavior or anything. It's just kind of what
Yeah.
they're doing as puppies, and you've got to teach them to deal with their emotions in more productive ways. They're pretty weird, but yeah.
That's how humans do their emotions too. What are you talking about? They get angry.
Yeah.
The equivalent of nipping is like keyboard warrior on Twitter or something, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with him though, it's like anything kind of passes past his face. He's like, like chewing on your trousers or your
very unrestrained emotions there. Yeah, some people are like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think Twitter is a machine that's designed to do that. Actually, I mean, this is broadly. I think that there are a lot of people in the Catholic Church who clocked onto this, and I would say that Pope Francis was one of them. I've not read much of the current Pope, so I don't know. But the sort of idea of the way that the corporate incentives or the incentives for profit behind social media platforms are kind of providing financial incentives to create things that bring out the worst tendencies in human psychology, basically promote the vices. I think that is accurate. And, so I'd say kind of regardless of the people, those platforms, or even this platform, YouTube, that, like you were saying with the problem of trying to get people to get into content, it's always incentivizing or biasing us towards the worst aspects of our character, or to participate in discourses in just extreme ways and clickbaity, so I think the whole thing needs to be fixed somehow, but I don't know quite how.
You're so right. You're a good person to talk to about this, and I've been bouncing around with this for a while since the Charlie Kirk's killing. The idea that it seems the echo chambers, the thing, have been there for a while, but like I'm also concerned about, because they're designed in such a way, as you're saying, with respect to language and interest and all that, but also with respect to like marketing things, it shows you stuff that you want to see, and puts you in those echo chambers. And I'm wondering like how much responsibility is on the code writers and on the CEOs and finance people who like do just want to make this money. Because like that's fine if you're like just showing me product, and maybe that concert I went to last night, this concert, cool, I saw that on Instagram or YouTube or Netflix or somewhere as a commercial, and I was like, cool, I'll go to that. But when it's ideas, it can be like radicalized and snowballed. Like, where do you draw the line? I don't write code, so I don't know how to like to distinguish. And then and I wondered, like, also like morally speaking, like what level of moral culpability they would have, and what they could do. What are your thoughts on this? This kind of, I've been bouncing this around with my wife and thinking about this.
To some degree, there's a responsibility that lands with engineers, but I do broadly, I mean, I'm a software engineer myself. I view engineers more broadly as victims of the financial incentives that are often way over their head. If you're not in the C-suite or you're not an investor, you have very little say over the overall direction that these companies go in. And trying to swerve a ship like one of these big companies, there's a book recently actually called Careless People, about Meta. It was one of the people who worked there writing about, basically she was a diplomat, and she was kind of saying, look, there are political consequences to this tool, and constantly she was trying to push it in a more diplomatic direction. And she's kind of going over her memoirs, for example, of how various people in the company were just not on board with that. They were either too impressed with the fact that they could buy really expensive handbags, the lifestyle they could present to other people. There was one person who, this was after the first Trump the election
Yeah.
in 2016, was kind of like brand marketing and saying, we did that, I got him elected, like that's how powerful our tools are for manipulating people's points of view. And I think that all of this, and she talks about like various engagements with Mark Zuckerberg as well, which it kind of highlights, I guess, just a level of both incompetence, but the carelessness when it comes to ethical considerations, political considerations, social considerations, just people who you can't place it all at the feet of any one person, but it's a sick kind of system, where people are just care about
That's
the wrong
thing. Yeah, it diffuses the responsibility. It's almost like the bystander effect, where there's like not just one person who's gonna be the whistleblower. I just looked this book up and I'll follow up on it. It sounds really good, but like even her, she's in a really limited position to do anything, change anything. It kind of makes it hard to believe that people would just. I mean, I know that some people would say, "Yeah, it's just like my handbags. I just want to make money." I know there are people like that, but I think a lot of people also would just. It seems to me they don't understand the severity of it and the like the gravity of what it could be, you know what I mean, like which we saw play out with Charlie Kirk. People being radicalized, it's like they see that as just such a remote possibility, or maybe just kind of want to bury it and think it's not happening, and like, or maybe they think is like a, I don't know, understandable cost that they're willing, because there's so much good they're bringing about to people's lives. I don't know, but anyway, your thoughts on this?
I was actually today skimming through one of Charlie Kirk's books, actually, and he talks a lot about marketing, and one of the things he says is that Americans are a society of people who basically kind of love advertising because of the kind of how into the idea of business and products and stuff people are in the general culture. And he talks about the way to latch into that politically is to kind of always take quite an extreme position and to never concede anything or back down. And so I think that it's like, but not that that makes him, he's like the sole person responsible for how toxic the whole bit, but I'm saying it's like, so if you're one way to participate in online spaces is to view it that way, and to
you
lean
can be
into
really
that.
successful by doing it that way,
and the platforms will support you and promote you through that. And it's really in terms of pointing the finger, I think it's hard. I do think that I think there are a couple of places where people are most responsible, right? One of which is going to have to be politicians, because at the end of the day, politics is the way that we try to legislate our ethics. So it's politics where people have the power to come up with legislation, or in the different systems, if there's an executive, they can make executive orders or whatever, to try and do something about that. So there definitely is going to be political responsibility, but I also think the kind of, I mean, look, I'm not a Marxist, but there's no other way to express this. The sort of capital owning class, right? The tech industry is so ran by investors who want to invest in the next big thing, produce a stock, maximize the profit on the stock, and then they don't really care about the social consequences of that as well. But there are so many engineers I know who would much rather be working on something that would do some social good or have a real passion for technology, but they just can't, because the jobs are all centered around making stuff that sells adverts to people, or something that's essentially doing something they think is bad in some way, but they're kind of trapped in doing that because of the way the job market is. And
I've been thinking about this too, with respect. I hate to call it like radicalizing language or extreme language, but I guess we could just call it advertising language. The idea of like putting things in black and white extremes and taking, like you said, a really strong position on things. I was thinking about this just yesterday and talked to my wife about it, because Kierkegaard did this exact same thing. Like, so it's not new, but it does get people's attention. He would risk saying something false if it meant, like, if it meant he said something extreme, he would risk saying it too far and false so that it brought people kind of back center, because like his audience was the Danish state church, and he was trying to like bring them back from the brink of like whatever corruption they were in. And so if he said something really extreme, they would say, oh, well, we're not that. And they would kind of, come closer to the middle ground on that or something. Yeah. But yeah, I was thinking about this because as an example, this came up. I saw, I don't know if it's Catholic Answers or if Bishop Barron no, I think it was Trent Horn. It was Trent Horn posted something that said, you cannot be pro-choice and Catholic. And I was like,
I'm not sure that's a dogma though. I don't know. But
well, I was just thinking about this. Like, well, he's not necessarily promoting dogmatic teachings in everything he says, so this may not be. But so I was thinking about that, and I was like, certainly part of that's true, and that's the power of the statement. Obviously, because Catholics don't, believe abortion is a grave evil. So, but you can't not be pro-choice and Catholic. And I thought about this. I'm like, well, if you believe that you can be a bad Catholic, then it is possible you can be a Catholic and be pro-choice. You can just have really bad beliefs or really undevout beliefs or really unserious beliefs or something. You just maybe never thought about it. And so, and it's really hard to be un-Catholic once you're Catholic. You have to go through a process or whatever. Like you're baptized Catholic, you're going to be Catholic forever. And so, yeah.
I think it's also reasonable to think people might believe that, but then not think that the right thing to do is legislate in a particular way politically, right? So it depends. So if pro-choice means, it depends whether pro-choice means politically advocate for making this illegal, or think that this is an immoral or bad thing, right? Because I do think it gets more complicated when you consider what the effects might be of legislating in a particular way, and that's where the complexity is, in my view. But
But notice so if I were to go out and say all that stuff, like my rhetoric is going to be much less effective if I was like, well, Catholics can't be pro-choice, but they can if you are a bad Catholic, and really the view is this, and like there'd be a really long title, nobody would ever read it, and nobody would stay for that conversation. Much more effective to just say Catholics can't be pro-choice.
Yes.
Like even though you're technically saying something false, like if you just go with the precision. And so, but again, like that's what gets clicks. That's what advertises. That's what gets people attention. And knowing that it's not just a present day kind of invention, knowing that it has been in our idea sphere for so long, part of me is thinking, I know it can be abused, but if that's just the way that humans operate and work, maybe it's okay to do that. I don't know.
Well, there's another book about it's a weird book because it's always very popular with the far right in the UK for some reason. I've forgotten its title, but it's about like working class book culture. So there was like a really big culture of reading in the working class in Britain as it industrialized for some reason. And the reason I raise that is because I think it's an interesting counterexample to the idea that it's sort of like related to how laborious people's work is, or how difficult or something. The idea that it would be natural to not put effort into your intellectual life or something. I do think that the kind of arrangement of things we have currently is very based on contingent history and social events and economic events where we've essentially just promoted the wrong things. Like in the UK we have the BBC, for example, and it used to have an ethos of, I mean, there are downsides to this, but it used to understand itself as having this social responsibility because it's not, it's paid for through something called the TV license, so it doesn't have adverts or anything like that. And they used to think, okay, well, if we've got like a football game on, we know we'll retain some of the audience, so we'll put like a documentary about democracy or World War II or something on afterwards. So then people will learn about that who were watching the football afterwards, because they viewed programming as a responsibility that broadcasters had to all of these sorts of social functions. The same with the BBC World Service, or one of the things that USAID was paying into, actually, that came up as why are we paying the BBC money, was there's a program they had training journalists in developing countries, because free press is important to democracy, and that was what some of the money was going towards. And I guess the point is that you can have these organizations where the cultural ethos isn't profit driven in a kind of society that has various pathologies anyway. And I think the way maybe to get there is going to be slightly political, but also that involves individuals changing their minds, or having a kind of change of heart or repentance or whatever you want to call it, to sort of have a different social vision for what they want.
It's true, but it's also really, I don't know how sustainable it is on a capitalistic market system, because like people, those are like aid programs, they're paying into that, and I don't know if it's going to sustain itself, even though you're doing the right thing, right? Like, let's get this good message out. Man, I wish money would just follow morality, but it doesn't, Yeah.
No, it's complicated, but I think that's where the role of politics is, to try and get that relationship right. Actually, that's one of the actually, you might not be able to see one of the things I've been reading today, for example. And I think that some countries do better jobs with that than others. And it's not that I think there is a sort of dichotomy in some people's minds between sort of capitalism and communism or something that is just a false dichotomy. And the state of discourse in modern economics is far more nuanced than that, in terms of the different ways that people think about value creation, the relationship of markets and government and things like that. There's a lot of options on the table, and there are countries that if you look at some of the most prosperous countries in the world in terms of the happiness index, healthcare, democracy indexes, freedom of press, these Scandinavian countries, they seem to do some kind of combination of having really good markets, some of the best companies in the world, some of the best products that they produce, but also, a really strong level of welfare support for people that allows them to retrain or get healthcare when they need it. And they kind of achieve a trade-off between these things, where it's not right to say that they fall into they have free markets, so they're capitalists and they get or they but one of the things they're doing at the minute is putting a massive emphasis on educating students in critical thinking, how to identify fake news and engage with media. And I think that we haven't done that in the UK and in America.
If we could, so the problem I hear with those countries, many people on the left here are very attracted to those, and they point out those countries as a model of because of the reasons you say, like social programs, strong enough economies and so on, and they're still capitalists and so on. The many of them, I hear the pushback is that they're not diverse, so they're not like promoting that. So it's really interesting, but also like, so it wouldn't be, so it's a response to like the leftist side. It's like, oh, well, you want those, you're not going to get these. It's like you have to trade off. They're not going to be diverse. It's not that they have to be diverse, but also I think it would be worth looking at more, because if they are able to do some of the things that maybe the right would desire, that is like promoting good virtue, if they are doing those things, like if they're using, like we're saying, what the BBC World News was doing, or USA, like not just, hey, let's spread freedom of the press or whatever, but like good ideas as well, you know what I mean? Like, and if we could do that somehow, then that would be wonderful. And maybe that's a project the right in this country should deem worthwhile, is maybe taking, not just writing off those countries as being, oh, well, that's a left calling card sort of talking point, but we can actually use this as a lesson that we didn't previously know how, that maybe they've got good virtues, or maybe they but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, thoughts on that? We'll let you wrap up, and then we'll
just on the I don't know exactly how to address the diversity point, just to say maybe that I don't think that the argument that, well, there are maybe people who make this argument, but it's certainly not one I would make, that diversity is just inherently a good thing, like that you should. But I would say that it's more if the demographics that you had are better explained by contingency rather than by systematic oppression and exclusion.
Right. Yeah.
So if you can quite clearly point to a sort of like history of those sorts of things, and that explains divisions or stratifications in society,
Exactly. Yeah.
then you might care about that. But it's not just going to be like inherently like, oh, everyone, it needs to be at these levels. And I would say for those countries, for example, typically they have free movement with the EU.
Yeah.
There's some really interesting stuff about how they dealt with both immigration and terrorism. So they have a very strong sense of like restorative justice, right? So the idea being that kind of a better kind of justice than simply punishing someone, like punitive justice if they've done wrong, is to restore them to a better state. And so some of the ways that they dealt with people who actually went off to fight ISIS is that when they caught them, when they came back, this is in Sweden and Norway as well, they actually put them in places where they would retrain them and take care of a lot of their needs. And a lot of these people ended up de-radicalizing. Part of the reason that they radicalized was because of ways that they were treated. This isn't going to cover all cases, but the program is actually very successful, right? And it's very interesting how kind of meeting, obviously there needs to be the ability to have defense against people who are going to commit terrorist acts or anything like that. But if you kind of just perpetuate hatred and fear, then you end up fracturing and segregating society in various ways that perpetuates these motives of people to want to find a community who will accept them, and then that they're quite extreme and driven out, whereas there's sort of a better way that's on offer that has been sort of empirically proven in some of those programs, in my view. So I do think these societies are very open in a number of ways, even if they're contingently majority white or whatever. I don't think that that's a product of them having I don't think that that's a cause of them being good, and I don't think it's a product of them having these policies that preserve demographics in a certain way or anything like that.
Right. Cool. Well, we have a couple more people waiting in the studio, so we'll wrap up our conversation here. Nathan, it's been really awesome anytime you're on, so please do come back, and it's great to have you.
No worries. Cheers.
Right. Talk to you later. So he said some really wonderful things there. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch and think back upon. And I do rewatch these videos. I hope you do too. I know Objective Ethics does, and then some other people might as well. But I do watch them, and it's easy to watch them. You just like double the speed or whatever, and then you're like, okay, I remember when I was saying this, or this person was saying this, and it kind of jogs your memory. Some really great stuff there on. I'll have to remember it, but not just that diversification, but also the prison stuff. It made me think of like. Sorry, I didn't say this while Nathan was on, but it made me think of like new defaults. Like we have in our country like a default now of like this stratification of society, good and evil. It could be that like maybe our default needs to like be, well, we need to think kind of correcting that and have our default being like good, civil, moral people all across the board. And so how do we get people to that default? And that would be like what I mean, look at some of these documentaries with respect to it's either Norwegian or Swedish prisons, and they're actually quite nice. They've got really nice facilities, and they don't torture people or anything like that. It's like living in an apartment. They don't even have prison bars. It's to Americans that we think it's crazy, but it's really kind of crazy. But anyway, all right, we're gonna bring Cameron on here, and then Eastern Thomas. I see you waiting there. So Cameron, good to see you. What do you want to talk about, man? I'm sure we may have said something that you're like, oh, I'm gonna perk my ears up and get up in here. But how have you been? Can you hear me?
I've been good, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, there you
go. All good.
Oh, we got some kind of lag or something.
Ooh.
Okay. It might be something to your connection. Yeah, I see your video now, but your audio is kind of lagging as well, so I can only hear like snippets of it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Nathan says no internet in Durham. I don't know, but I can hear you, but it's coming in different snippets, disjointed. All right, try to. Okay, So he may try to unplug and come back. If you just unplug it and plug it back in, it might work. It's one of those things. All right, so we're going to bring on our next guest, Eastern Thomas, and welcome to the show. I saw that you were in studio waiting last time.
Yes.
We weren't able to get to you, unfortunately, and I'm so glad you came back. So I want to hear what you want to talk about.
Yeah, so I was going to kind of follow up on what I was going to talk about in that episode. So in regards to the Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk thing, because I know there's this big kind of nationwide debate about, the death penalty right now. And I know it's divisive amongst Catholics. I know right now Pope Leo recently made a statement about it that kind of stirred the pot recently. So what I was wondering is it kind of, would you say it's kind of fair to say that the death penalty is generally wrong unless it fits the principle of double effect? Because I know, one of the arguments, people will say, well, St. Thomas Aquinas was so pro death penalty. He does talk favorably about the death penalty, but he also kind of makes the argument of it has to rise to the standard to where it's almost like a body part. Like he compares it to a body part where, a person may have to cut off a body part if it causes the rest of their body to survive. So do you think it's fair to kind of take the position of, the death penalty is wrong unless it comes to the state where, the existence or peace of a society is like existentially threatened?
Yeah, so you're right. It is a very controversial issue among Catholics. And I would recommend, if you haven't seen it already, and for anybody listening, there's a good snippet of a longer form interview with Matt Fradd on Pints with Aquinas, talking with a priest about this. And I forget his name, but it's the guy with like a really long beard. He almost looks like an Orthodox priest. Really, really long beard, shaved head, younger guy. And forget his name, Father something or other. But he teaches at some seminary. And they had a really, really nice video interview about this on the exact topic. So I'd recommend that. They had some great things to say. They noted that it has been changed in recent years, the magisterial teaching on the death penalty. And of course, proponents will say, well, it wasn't changed, it was modified or adapted or whatever, this unfolding continuation. And of course, if you're Catholic, you have to adhere to whatever the teaching is and have fidelity to that, especially if you're a priest like this guy was on the interview. But the idea was what motivated the change, and because it does seem odd, because many popes were okay with capital punishment or were in favor of capital punishment, many popes before Francis. But Francis had it changed in the catechism because not because he wanted it to, but he saw it also as a continuation of John Paul II, who like as early as like 93 or something said that because of the modern state of correctional facilities, you can now house somebody for life, and as long as there's possibility for repentance and change in their life before death, then you should give them that possibility, not erase it from them. So that would remove. So if you're thinking that life for life principle, that's in the Old Testament, that would still be satisfied in these cases, because you are taking their life. You're taking away any freedom that they have, and you're locking them up permanently. So with respect to removing them from society, goal accomplished. But you're also, with respect to their soul, still preserving them that possibility of repentance. So that's why it was changed. I don't know if that answers any questions, but that some clarity.
That does make sense, because I know one of the things, kind of pulling from St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the things St. Thomas Aquinas does say is, everything has to be done according to right order. Even when he talks about the death penalty, he says, like, a vigilante can't do this. And he also says, like, somebody with religious influence who's kind of a political, presence still can't do that, because that's against the office of holy orders that someone would make that type of decision for a society. So I guess you'd have to ask, when would the state have the authority to do that? And, I think if you're going off of the principle of double effect, I think, that would give the heads of a society kind of the order under that situation, because it's their job and their duty to kind of protect the society. But again, I think Pope St. John Paul II was also right in saying, in today's modern society, that's not really as necessary. I mean, as you said, at the time, today there's a much, it's much easier to keep a person in prison for the rest of their lives. And also, I think a lot of the older popes, a lot of them were alive when there were wars and crusades. And so the idea of, we have to take this one person's life to protect the society was probably more common than it is today. Because even today, like, you have somebody who's really evil, it's not necessarily that they pose a threat to the existence of a society. It's just, yeah.
So yeah, I would say that what was more common is that having to resort to the death penalty in order to remove the harms from society, that was far more common. And that was Pope John Paul II and Pope Francis' point. Nathan says here, I think it seems to be based off this better justice of restoration versus retribution. I think the retribution as punishment is still good, but if you're thinking of that as meaning the model on which you must take a life, then there's like this new default is what I was mentioning earlier. And he says here, the state does have the authority, but that authority isn't good if it has the means not to kill people. That would be the Catholic view. There's legal murder, but all killing a man is against sin. Yeah. So you mentioned the doctrine of double effect. Let me speak to that. So the doctrine of double effect, and just paraphrasing here, is the idea that you would, as far as I understand it, you would bring about an evil or a bad, but it would be morally permissible to do so if the effect was expected yet not intended. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I think the way St. Thomas kind of describes it is he would say that that the principle of double effect is essentially that it basically gives the person right order in certain case scenarios. So, for example, if you're walking down the street and you see a person walking down the street in front of you, you don't have the right to kill that person because, A, that person has human dignity, but also B, you're not God. You didn't give that person life, so you can't take life from that person. But if that person is running at you with a knife, and you have a knife in your hands, and you stab that person to save your own life, well, now that is according to right order. Now you've been put in the driver's seat as kind of the protector of your own life. And so now that kind of does put you in the driver's seat.
I can see it with
someone who could do that according to right order.
Yeah, I totally see it with respect to self-defense, but this is distinct from cases of self-defense. This is, the authority is different, the circumstances are different. So morally speaking, there are so many differences as to not be a case of self-defense. When the state actually enforces a penalty upon an individual because of a crime done against somebody else, that's not going to be a self-defense at all, because the state's not defending itself. It's not as if society is defending itself. It's the state enforcing. It's almost like society is defending itself, but that's just a metaphor. It's the state enforcing what was harmed on somebody else. It's the administrator of justice. And so I don't know if you get doctrine of double effect here. I just don't know how it would apply unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, I think back in the day when St.
Here's
Thomas
why.
Here's
why. It's because the intended effect is the death of the person. The intended effect is the removal of the person from society. So doctrine of double effect only applies in cases like in self-defense. Like, I didn't until when I shot blank, it was dark. It was a night intruder and home intruder, and I shot blindly, and I didn't know if I hit him or not. Like, that right there is unintended effect. It's not intended, but it's expected that it might be the case that this guy got shot and killed. So it's expected consequence, yet unintended. So with the state enforcing the death penalty, it is an expected consequence that the person dies. It certainly also is not an unintended effect that the person dies. It is definitely an intended effect that the person dies. So the doctrine of double effect, it just wouldn't apply.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, of course.
So, please come back anytime. We'll wrap it up here, and then if you've
Yep.
got any other questions, please write them down and bring them back. I want to hear from you again. I really love
I
your
will,
avatar as
definitely.
well. It's so beautiful. Is that Thomas Aquinas?
That is Thomas Aquinas. Yes.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we'll come back anytime, and we'll talk to you later. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye. All right, we're gonna try to bring on Cameron here. Let's see if this works.
Hello? Can you hear
That's
me?
much better.
Okay,
Nathan also
good.
said
That's good.
maybe turning the camera off, but I think we're good enough. So
Yeah. I think it's
All
fine
right.
now. Okay.
I think we
How's
are.
everything with you?
Great.
Good?
Yeah, really good. Even better now that you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With me, I've just started uni actually. So I'm doing philosophy and biology at Durham Uni. That's why Nathan said
Good.
Durham.
Nice. I didn't know that. That's great. And not arrested either. Maybe because you've kept your mouth shut in the UK and you're not breaking any laws apparently under
Yes,
that regime.
yeah. But uni's been really nice so far. I mean, we had a ceremony today.
Cool.
It's really similar to like Oxford, if you know like Oxford. You got the different colleges, and you have your gowns, and you wear your gowns to really nice dinners. I had a really nice dinner tonight. I see what Nathan said there. But I guess what I wanted to ask was like, what would be your tips for philosophy, studying it at uni? Because Nathan gave me a few tips, which is quite nice. But what would be your perspective?
On university? Is this your first?
Sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Philosophy at uni. So specifically philosophy.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were just starting university. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay,
I just started
That's awesome.
I guess this Monday technically.
That's fantastic. And is it a 4-year program, 3-year program? What is it?
It's originally 3, but I can add a 4th year if I want to.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. It was a little bit different with the US. They're typically 4 years, and then you can do the masters in like 2, 1. But you guys do like the 3 and 1, and you got the masters sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. Very attractive to Americans who want to study there. Yeah. So it'd be a little bit different, but with respect to advice, you're already so bright, and you know a lay of the land, so you are like like way more than I did with philosophy, and maybe just because like this, the way the world is now, you have so much exposure to all this great philosophical content right at your fingertips.
Well, like
I didn't even know what philosophy was when I first started, so I majored in history at first, and I was like, oh, it's not Civil War weapons that I want to be an expert in. I like the ideas and then I also kind of came in another door through apologetics and thinking about my faith and doubts and so on. And I was like, I probably need a major in philosophy. I didn't even know what philosophy was until I was in my 2nd year or 3rd year of college. So, so you're much better prepared than I was. And then with respect to that, I mean, the UK school system is different. So I'd say if you can stay there, that's great. Do that. And then, but if you have ambitions to go, if you know you're going to go on to graduate school, because like I recommend you're not going to get any jobs, of course, with a bachelor's probably in philosophy, not these days. So
that's why I've done philosophy and biology, because if I can mix both of them, I can get a job like mixing them, if you know what I mean.
Good, yeah. So so I recommend some students, if you hear like if you double major or double emphasis, then you can that's what I usually recommend. I usually tell my students, don't major just in philosophy unless you're crazy like me and couldn't imagine yourself doing anything else, because it's going to take a lot out of you. You're going to have to go and get a doctorate because there's no jobs otherwise, unless you already kind of have a side gig, you do software engineering on the side, you know how computers work, cool, and you're just doing it for fun, or you double major in something, like you want to go into nursing, or you want to major in a language, you want to be an interpreter, or whatever it may be. So in biology, what's your interest in biology, and is there any overlap that you see with biology and philosophy?
I was thinking that. So at the end of my course, I'm going to have to write like a dissertation sort of thing, and I was thinking of different ways to like merge biology and philosophy, and one of the ways. Sorry.
Are they just for you now, just kind of disparate interests, that you're now trying to like think about how they might
Yes.
interact? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One of them was like, I guess, philosophy of mind and like neuroscience
Yes.
and that sort of stuff. And that would be like, I guess, Paul and Patricia Churchland. That would be their sort of route. And then there were other things like, I guess, psychological hedonism, which would be like really interesting to study because I have my own arguments for that view.
Yeah.
And often they're like biological in nature. So if I could study the biology of the mechanisms of pleasure and pain and implement that into like a philosophical theory, that would be really interesting, I think.
That'd be great. Yeah. And to my mind, because I don't do biology, I was thinking like fish or evolution or something like that, which that could be a route, you know, but yeah, if you're like, then you mentioned brain, and I was like, obviously there's like that means that's such a massive area of overlap. I think I mentioned my friend, I'll put him in the chat here. His name's Brandon Rickabaugh. He was actually in my wedding party, the best man at my wedding. Used to be a really great guy. Also went to Baylor with me, like Sabrina Little, who I mentioned earlier. Really, really great guy. He actually visiting in a couple of weeks, and he's going to stay with us because he's got to go to DC for some leadership thing, institute something. But he does a lot of stuff on neuroscience with philosophy. So you're interested in that overlap. And like, see, for example, I do psychology and philosophy, but psychology doesn't really require any brain, neuroscience, biology, body stuff. It doesn't require understanding of the hardware. It's just the psychology software. It's like a soft science as opposed to a hard science. Yeah. But he would be a lot more like aware about the neural network kind of stuff. And there's a lot of overlap here in if you're interested in like recent debates about AI and cognitive interface stuffs and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of possibility for application here. And he does all that stuff with philosophy. Like he's not got any other degrees but in philosophy. So yeah, if you look into his work and some of that stuff interests you as well, he is a substance dualist, which Paul and Patricia Churchland are not.
Yeah.
They're not substance dualists, but in order to be in those conversations, even you have to have some ability to be conversant in those, you know, those areas in neuroscience and in non-reductive physicalism and materialism and replacement theories on these things. So if you're going to do that, you still need to be up on your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a really, I guess, funky view of the mind. I would lean towards a view called illusionism. I'm not sure if you're familiar with illusionism. There's sort of like a main guy for illusionism now. He's called Keith Frankish. He has a YouTube channel, or he does YouTube. It's quite interesting. It's sort of basically saying that qualia, so the qualitative aspect of the mind, is an illusion.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It doesn't really exist, and that's quite interesting. I mean, I've got a professor. Well, I don't. He's not my professor now, but he's at my uni, called Philip Goff. I might have mentioned him.
Yeah, I've heard the name. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the complete opposite of my view. He's a panpsychist. He thinks that consciousness is fundamentals. That's the absolute opposite of my view. So I think that would be an interesting route to go down, because I can really like look at the lay of the land in mind and really challenge my own views with a view of my professor that would be completely different. But even if I wanted to go down like a different route, like I could do fine tuning, perhaps issues on fine tuning with biology.
Yeah,
I think Nathan wrote his dissertation on divine psychology in fine tuning, which I find very interesting. That's like really interesting stuff. That is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it may be a different timeline for you guys, especially the 3 versus 4 years. But even in that different length of time, I think your undergrad, and maybe people who have been through the UK system could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's more about like laying foundation than it is necessarily like making sure you're this ism or this ism or this ism or whatever. Yes, there has to be some of that, because even if as I teach my students, like I'm teaching them an ethics class right now, and I want them to have and affirm certain moral intuitions. Like I want them to affirm like Holocaust is bad, slavery is bad. Like don't just come to my class and and leave with the idea that, well, these are just moral notions. Who knows? Like, no, we got to set down some stakes somewhere. So with respect to any philosophical ideas and concepts and theories, yeah, you'll need to do some of that, but also kind of keep your possibilities and options open, and then do more of the specialization, like, because in undergrad it's more about laying broad foundation, and then once you get into grad school, it's like more about specialization. But you can't specialize unless you've got that broad understanding.
Exactly. I mean, the thing with what I've done is, because I'm taking 2 subjects, I guess, I've had to pick specific, I guess, modules, you'd call them, from those subjects. So I've had to sort of specify what I'm going to be doing in philosophy. So I've chosen one called philosophical traditions, which is, it's quite broad. It's got logic, it's got how to write essays, it's got logos, pathos, ethos.
Cool.
I think that's what they are. And then one of them is mind and reality, which is, I guess, metaphysics and epistemology. And then the last one is ethics and values. And I think, personally, that's what I'm most interested in. I guess the only issue would be, is, as with you're saying, I've sort of already specialised in a way. I've already determined what I'm going to be doing in my future, and that might, I don't know, that might damage how I think about philosophy in the future.
It will. No, what I mean is, no, that's a really nice broad base to cover all your sort of canonical sub-disciplines within philosophy, let's say. But I mean with respect to the theories, like it's nice that you, even with this professor, not that you're certainly not confrontational, but not that you're contrarian, let's say. That not that you're just getting in there and just saying, oh, I'm not going to believe whatever you say. Some people do that, but you're not, so not to say that you're doing that, but even if you did have a professor who you agreed with on everything, I would just keep in mind that to leave those possibilities open with respect to like the theories themselves. So with respect to specializing, sure, like go where your interests are, but yeah, so if you were gravitating towards something that you find more interesting, like me, I didn't gravitate toward chemistry. I didn't gravitate towards mathematics. Just
I don't blame you. Yeah.
Like, I don't care about that stuff. I'm going to do the stuff that I really like. So yeah, that sounds like you're doing that. And then as long as you're just keeping possibilities open with respect to, but that's what the readings are for. Like when you get into like reading the Churchlands, when you get into reading Jaegwon Kim, or any substance dualist author, for example, like you need to look at the arguments themselves. And that's what I mean with respect to, like, I wouldn't start with the mindset of, I'm gonna prove this theory like on day 1 of undergrad. You know what I mean? Like that's what a dissertation's for, that's for sure. But but at this point it's like you should say, I want to know what the theories are and the arguments are for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just realised, as you said, Jaegwon Kim, I have a book by Jaegwon Kim which I forgot to bring with me to uni, and that's really annoying because I live 7 hours away from from my university, so I can't just go back home and pick it up. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Bummer. Which one was it? My Metaphysical World or Physical
No,
Not Near Enough?
It was just edited. Actually, I've got
nice
version. It's like one of these.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah.
But it's the
Intro
companion...
to Philosophy of Mind or something.
Yeah, well, I think it was his one was Epistemology. I could be wrong. But he had a companion to Epistemology, which he edited, which is really nice. I guess I find them quite useful to get, as you said, like a lay of the land. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
Those
books are really nice too. They're usually they're not peer reviewed. They're editor reviewed, but not like you're getting like journal referees to review them, because they're not journal articles, they're books, but but they are high quality still. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, and usually if it's like an intro level, your editor, you're gonna make sure that like it's a nice broad lay of the land without much bias, and of course still look for bias, but those intro level books that you would use in any text, assign in any textbook, they're gonna be really, really good. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's been a very nice conversation. Yeah.
Well,
good
good luck, man.
Thank you.
And you'll have to update me later.
I will definitely. All right,
cool.
Goodbye.
Talk to you later. Bye. All right, that's really nice. So all right, we're gonna bring in our next guest. Looks like we have Ita. And nice to meet you. I've not met you before.
Hi.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. Let me just put on my camera at the moment.
Okay, great.
Hey, yeah. So what? Just to introduce myself, did you say?
Sure. Yeah. Is it Ita or Ita?
Just Ita. Yeah.
Okay.
Ita.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could just say I'm in the UK, and I mean, I do have an interest in philosophy amongst other things, and I guess I'd probably say how I found your channel. I mean, I just
Sure,
confess
yeah.
it's I saw the exchange you had with that guy called Justin, is it? Yeah, the deconstruction.
Yep.
Yeah, so I saw that, and I tried. I mean, I missed your couple of lives last couple of weeks, so but I mean, wanted to speak with you. I mean, I can just confess, say straight up that I don't quite enjoy the deconstruction. The guy, the way
Yeah.
he approached it. I mean, I will say that maybe in like I wouldn't say maybe I mean, I don't know if you want to say fault, but how he went, I wouldn't say it's completely all his fault in that sense, but
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
I can definitely see you going in there. Like it did seem a bit hostile and
Yeah,
quite.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was hosting me on a debate show, and because we had corresponded via email before that for it to be a discussion like this. And so when he sent me the link for the show, I was like, what's going on here? And of course I was the first one on, so I wasn't viewing people going in front of me. I've never watched his show other than like one clip of some dude. And so I didn't know what I was walking into. But in his defense, again, like that's what he does. That's the way he advertises it. And I mean, it's why would he change? That's what gets a lot of attention. So yeah,
Yeah,
but I don't really like the style either.
No, I mean, even I could say because I've seen some other of his videos and he can be quite bad with other people. So I think with you, it seemed fairly all right. I mean, there were some sticking points every now and then,
For
but
sure.
it was really reading the comments where you definitely go. I mean, whether rightfully or wrongly, I mean, you got pilloried. It was a bit. It did seem a bit, because I've seen. In some videos where it might be an atheist going on a show like that where the Christians are hosting it and then they get pilloried. So it just seemed like the same thing but from the opposite side. So
for sure.
Yeah. So but yeah, I'm not sure if you have anything you might want to ask me. I mean, I can say that I don't believe in like God or anything like that. So if that puts me in an agnostic or atheist bracket, then fine. So I don't know if you have any questions with that. But I had one specific question which I kind of it was based on kind of the based on, but watching that exchange you had with Justin. But I was just curious because, like obviously I understand you're a Catholic, isn't it? So you believe in let's take the resurrection of Christ. So you obviously believe in that. So I was and you obviously believe. So would you say that the strongest evidence that you go by for that is maybe testimony based on the Gospels or something like that, or what do you think?
Yeah, not necessarily. Did you watch my video on evidence?
Probably no, haven't. No.
Okay, because I do distinguish between different types of evidence. It's in the video called "There's No Evidence for God: Why This Is a Bad Claim or False Claim" or something like that. It's a very recent video. So if you're interested in it, and I distinguish between. As epistemologists distinguish, kind of bringing that to the forefront. That's part of what I try to do as an educator. I'm like, this is what philosophers say. Just bring it to the people, and there are different types of evidence. I think I named like 6. Testimony is one of them. Empirical evidence is another. Inferential reasoning through logic and mathematics is another. Memory is another. And there's a couple other ones. Introspection is another. Like where I introspect if I'm having pain or a certain thought or something. And then the final one would be rational insight. Is like when I just know it to be true and I don't actually infer and discursively reason or something. So your question was, do I think that testimony is the strongest evidence? I don't think it's the strongest evidence.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean necessarily. I don't necessarily mean. I meant specifically for like the. Sorry, I should have made that clarified. Sorry about that. No, yeah, meant to the resurrection. Do you think testimony is what you go by as maybe the number one for you, or it's just because I've heard other Christians sometimes say so, but I don't want to obviously say that that's what you.
So I look at it. I don't know because I've never sat down and tried to quantify or even qualify which is strongest or not. But I do take them to all the pieces of evidence to be kind of cumulative case. So like the fact that there was a missing tomb, that's an objective piece of evidence right there. And excuse me, and we know this from the accounts that describe the Jewish people's behavior, the authorities, the Romans, everybody wanted to cover it up. There was something wrong right here. And no atheist disputes this, by the way. They just try to figure out like why it was empty, who stole it, and all that. So no theory is like, oh, by the way, there is no missing body. The body's right here. There's never been a theory like that. So that's pretty undisputable. So there's that piece of evidence. And then there's testimonial evidence, I guess, which would encompass the whole Gospels. But I'm wondering, like, what do you mean by testimonial evidence with respect to the Gospels? Because I could see testimonial evidence being pieces of every. Like I could say it as like, well, the Gospel authors, that includes testimonial evidence. Even the empty tomb being reported to us, that is testimonial evidence. Paul's letters, that's testimonial evidence because we're just hearing it secondhand. So like, so what is it that you're including all in this thing of testimonial evidence with respect to the resurrection?
Well, I mean, I'm not. My point wasn't kind of to interrogate the resurrection itself. It was kind of just wondering whether you lumped testimony into that, because I had something regarding. It was like a story not story, but something, an account I wanted to kind of relate to that. So it's relating to the supernatural. So, so I used to. So I used to live in West Africa, in Nigeria. So there's this case that I think you can even still Google and find, even like Reuters or something reporting about it. And it was, I think it was in 2008 or 2009. So I was still living in Nigeria at the time. So there was a case where, I can't remember where it was in Nigeria again, but basically there was an armed robbery or something, I think, or a person tried to rob a car or something like that, I can't remember. And so the story was that the police were chasing the person, and then the person basically. So basically the story is that the person then managed to used black magic and turned into a goat. So the police then arrested the goat, and they took the goat to the police station, and then they said I mean, it was a whole international sensation. But obviously, when I was in Nigeria, everybody believed that. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people believed that. And there was even some other accretions to the story, which I heard, which went in the newspapers, that there were actually two criminals, and one of them actually he turned into a hawk or something, and he flew away. While the other one turned into a goat, and that's why they caught him. Yeah, but that's what I'm thinking with the supernatural, because obviously, I mean, I could probably say, frankly, people here, like where I'm living in the UK, they just would laugh at that kind of story. That's just nonsense. But then people in Nigeria, I mean, that's not the only kind of supernatural occurrence, but people believe in those. People, whether they're Muslims, Christians, or animists. So I'm kind of just wondering, because I'm thinking about the resurrection. If I was to believe, like, if I was to be convinced of the resurrection, like, I'm thinking about testimony in sense, like, if it's from the Gospels and other things that go far back. Because I remember when I was in Nigeria, people were telling me that they'd spoken to someone who'd actually witnessed that the thing happening, so the crime, and then the person turned into goat. They hadn't seen him turn into a goat, but they'd been there and seen the police. So that's what I'm saying. So, but my thinking is, if I didn't believe, if I was to, like, what's the difference then? Because I would be more apt maybe to believe in that supernatural occurrence, because I've got testimony that's much close to the time from people that claim to have heard from someone. So I kind of just wondering how I juggle those kind of things.
Here's where those other types of evidence come in, because it's not just going to be testimony at that point. It's also going to be that rational inference. Like Nathan says here, I don't think any testimonial evidence could establish a miracle rationally. I think you're right, because evidence alone can't do anything. You still have to use the evidence to apply to and infer from the evidence to some conclusion. And how do you do that? Well, testimony is just the evidence. You have to use inference to make the case for, and then you kind of put all the puzzle pieces together. I think like in a police investigation, like, okay, I saw a shoe left at the crime scene. That means something. What does it mean? Like, it's just that not testimony in the case in this evidence or in this case, but it means something. It's a piece of the puzzle. What does it mean? How do I apply it? Where does it fit? And that's what you're doing with the ghost story. That's what you're doing with the resurrection. You're getting reports, okay? And then you have to like fit it. So with the resurrection story, for example, I would say, well, one really big item, one big puzzle piece is that the tomb was empty. Like that is reported to us. It's never denied by any, like, because by interested parties, people who had a vested interest that the tomb be empty, like Jesus' followers, which, by the way, they did not anticipate it to be empty because they didn't think he would rise from the dead. You can go back and read the accounts. So unexpectedly empty. And then you have the Jewish people trying to cover it up. You have the Roman authorities trying to cover it up. Nobody ever denies on those three parties. Nobody denies it was empty. So what I'm doing right there is I'm taking a piece of evidence and I'm applying rational inference. Like, these people all say it, so most probabilistically it is something that we can affirm that it did happen. The tomb was empty. So, okay, that's one tiny piece of the puzzle. Okay, then we do it with the next piece of evidence and the next piece of evidence, the next piece of evidence. And we also think of alternative to certain explanations. Obviously, the main explanation is that Jesus rose from the dead. Okay, what are the alternatives to those explanations? How do those fit into the puzzle? Do they account for all the evidence, right? So one alternative is that he swooned or fainted on the cross. Okay, so, well, does that fit all the pieces? Like, okay, well, you also have to take into account, well, that the Romans were really good torturers, really good killers. They would make sure that they break the legs before taking the body down, and so on and so forth. So does it fit all the evidence? No, it doesn't. It doesn't count for everything cleanly, and you have to take into account, well, this is called explanatory power and explanatory scope. It doesn't explain all the pieces of evidence as nicely as you would. It's almost like in a police investigation, you'd say, well, it only explains like 80% of the evidence. And maybe if that's the best out of the 5 or 6 competing theories that you have, that the best one explains 80%, that's the one you go with. But if there are other ones that explain it 100%, you would go with those. You know what I mean? The problem, of course, in the resurrection story is that you have a supernatural explanation that explains it 100%. Like, it fits all of the evidence. So at that point, you have 100% explanation, but it requires a worldview difference. Like, now I have to like believe in the supernatural, believe that miracles are possible. And so at that point, I think it's then a philosophical discussion. Like, I look at it this way. If you already believe that God exists, one extra miracle is not going to be that astonishing. Miracles are possible at that point. So then, what do I mean by that? Well, so then it becomes a question of whether God exists. And like, I have to use philosophical arguments to determine that. Like, in other words, like more reasoning, more inference, and so on and so on, for counting evidence, whatever it may be. Like much what I was doing with Justin in that video, and we were discussing, like, that was a case of that. So does God exist? So, yeah. So anyway, I've said a lot here with respect to like piecing all the puzzle pieces together and evaluating different theories as well. And I think with the goat story, why that's immediately dismissed is not because it's a supernatural explanation, it's because a really plausible explanation is far more likely that the guy just got away and the police didn't want to look stupid. You know?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's
a much more
definitely
plausible explanation. And we know that police will sometimes bungle an investigation. We know that police will cover things up, and you know, that's a much more plausible explanation than a man becoming a goat. So, and it fits, and that alternative explanation fits all the puzzle pieces that we have at all the pieces of evidence, that is to say, it fits at 100%. So why not go then, if you have a theory that fits at 100%, all the puzzle pieces, why not go with that? You know what I mean? In this case, it happens to be a non-supernatural explanation. In the resurrection case, it has to be a supernatural explanation. But anyway, I've said a lot here. What do you think about any of this?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, I mean, yes, with the God story, if I like, because like when I told people here in the UK about that, and obviously they just laughed it off.
Yeah, I do too.
But but I was thinking, because in the context of like, well, it could be West African culture, but even the West Indies, because with the voodoo and stuff like that. So I mean, because I mean, I grew up. There's a lot of these kinds of stories. So like, I remember even this is my own biology teacher. Told a story where she'd heard from someone, so it isn't testimony, that a woman had given birth to a goat. So I mean, that is my own. But that's it. But there's a lot of these stories, and I'm just thinking, if you grow up in kind of a cultural milieu of that, So like I'm thinking like, for instance, take Muslims, for instance. They, in their religious cultural milieu, Jesus didn't die on the cross. He was taken up by God, wasn't it? Oh no, he didn't resurrect. I mean, it wasn't Jesus on the cross. It was someone else, wasn't it? And he was taken up. And they think it's or they think something like the Trinity is farcical and so on, so on and so forth. So I'm just thinking, then is it just because it seems ridiculous here in the West? Why is it then less ridiculous? It's more plausible that a man 2,000 years ago resurrected, but then, because for instance, I'm thinking with a man turning into a goat, wasn't it in the when Moses met with the Pharaoh and the Pharaoh's magicians, didn't they wasn't the stick turn into a snake?
Yeah.
So that's some sort of transmogrification. So why can't the man turn into a goat if a stick can turn into a snake? So I'm just
like the cultural context. We have some of that in the U.S. as well. Like we've got, people don't believe in it fully. I don't know the nature of things or the cultural context in West Africa or West Indies, but like I live in Baltimore, close by in New Jersey. We've got the Mothman, the New Jersey Devil, and then the Mothman in West Virginia.
Yeah.
I have this glass with me, believe it or not. I've got it's called the Snallygaster. You can't really see it.
Just a bit, yeah, we can see a bit, yeah.
And it's called the Snallygaster, which is a bastardization of a German word, the Schnellegeist, which is like the fast spirit or something. It's another monster, and they have a whole festival there in Western Maryland all about the Snallygaster. And but it's fun to play with stories and be like, oh yeah, this Mothman approached me in the middle of the road and like right here with the big wings and everything. It's fun to talk about that around campfires, but nobody here takes it seriously either, of course. But your question as to, were these just, you're not saying this, but like, let me rephrase it into something that one might say, like these are just, after all, ancient primitive peoples. Of course, they're going to believe something silly like spirits and stuff like that. Honestly, I think that we shouldn't. C.S. Lewis calls this chronological snobbery, like thinking back on ancient peoples as if they're just idiots and they had nothing better to do than just make up stories or something. They didn't know as well as we did because we're the experts. We just know that's not true. Like these people were, in some cases, very brilliant, very educated, and had knowledge that we don't have anymore. There's a lot of stuff that they knew that we don't. And so I think we need some, instead of snobbery, a little humility with respect to there might be some things that they knew and that they understood to be possible that we just kind of write off as just silly. Much like they might do with us. Like, you're using what you call communication devices to talk to somebody on the other side of the globe. That's silly. You know what I mean? Like they would see that as silly. So when it's completely possible, of course. So again, it's a worldview difference, and it comes down at this point to like the philosophical differences and the philosophical arguments for the worldviews. Like, does materialism or naturalism adequately explain all that there is to explain the world? Like things that we just discussed with the last guy, qualia, like these qualitative felt states, consciousness, and so on. The existence of the world at all. Why is there something rather than nothing at all? Like why is this all here? Where are we going when we die? These sort of deep philosophical questions, and those worldviews are going to give different answers to each one of them. So I think that instead of looking at a case of a miracle and immediately kind of saying that's silly, right, that's silly, right? Well, if I were a naturalist, I would agree with you. It is silly. Yes, it is silly. But the deeper point of disagreement is that I'm not a naturalist. Like that's our point of disagreement. And so that is where the conversation needs to be had. You know what I mean? Like, why are you not a naturalist? Okay, well, these are the reasons why I'm not a naturalist. This is the reasons why I think God exists. So that's why I think the discussion needs to be kind of moved back to a prior commitment and examine that. Like, well, does God exist? Is naturalism true? Is atheism true? Those sorts of things. Does that make any sense?
No, I think that makes sense. I was just kind of thinking of it in the sense that, because, for instance, like a Western atheist or anything like that, they would just dismiss. So I kind of see the way they kind of, like, for instance, yourself as a Christian Catholic, they would just like poo-poo everything you believe and everything. Similar to then how you might have Christians here in the West who might just poo-poo all the things a Nigerian might believe on top of, like, because you have Nigerians who are Christians who believe in the, if you want to say, the kind of black magic kind of things that can happen.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking from the state. I mean, I don't know if yourself, but I understand obviously Catholics. I mean, I guess Christians in general, but Catholics believe in the existence of demons and such things.
Yeah.
So I think mine is just. I don't know if you have any idea of like what's a good, at least, because I mean I discount. I mean, obviously, since I don't believe in God, I mean I also discount the black magic kind of things. But it has made me kind of think: is what would be like a good heuristic, or even like something like a general heuristic or tool to use to, like, if if I've got two people coming with supernatural claims, and no matter how absurd they are, and they're from, because I mean, because I have cultural background from Africa and living in the West, so I can kind of see those. But if someone comes from a completely, like, let's just say Japan, and they have like they have the spirit, like they believe in the kamis, the spirit kind of things, the gods, and if they come with, they might have preposterous claims they come with, or tales they come with and tell me. So, but I don't, but then I feel like it would be unfair to dismiss it, because I might be more prone to dismiss because I'm not familiar with that culture, not grown up with that, and otherwise. But then I might give more credence to whether it's Christianity, Islam, or the black magic kind of claim. So so I kind of don't know what your thoughts on that.
Let me ask you a question. So why think that naturalism is true? Like, why think that is the default? Do you have positive reasons for that?
Positive reasons. Well, it's just, I think it's more that I'm just don't, because I've never believed in anything supernatural ever.
Right.
So it just seems to be my mental state since I could think, I guess, I've had cogent thoughts.
Okay, so I've always believed this, therefore it's true. That can't be the best way to believe something. You got to have positive reasons.
It's not necessarily true, but I've just that's just seems to be my mental state. Yeah,
it's like the most familiar and comfortable kind of, this is default just because this is where I am.
Yeah, because even when I was living in Nigeria, and when people learned that, because I mean, I can say I actually was, and this might be where the culture then comes. I was born, and till like secondary school age, I was living in Finland. So that's a very, if you want to say atheistic country, I don't know.
It is. I was just
secular.
There. Yeah. I was just there last month. Yeah.
Oh, right. Where, Helsinki?
I was in Helsinki. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, yeah. That's where I'm from. Yeah. How'd you enjoy it?
Cool. It was wonderful. It was great. Yeah. I met a guy, by the way, one of our Uber drivers was from Egypt, of all places. And he's like, I don't stay here in the winter.
Oh, yeah. I guess cold. Yeah. But I mean, just, I've never believed, because even when I went to Nigeria, and obviously pretty much everybody, they're either Christians or Muslims, or maybe some sort of animist in a minority.
Yeah.
So, and when they learned that, and everybody was trying to convince me various ways to believe, there's never anything in my head that went like, oh, and now I believe. So it's
right. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, because I've even thought of that Pascal's wager that's been suggested, but it just seems an insincere way of going about it. I don't think it just doesn't gel with me mentally.
Well, if you're interested in this, and you're not, completely tuning out to me when I talk, I have other videos on like the Pascal's wager, and even on the resurrection. I have a couple of videos on those. They're just under my live streams. So it's a little bit interactive, answering people's questions as well, if you like that. But yeah, I would just like, if you're in a position as to be like, if you're more in an agnostic position, but also think naturalism is true, I think that's kind of what I'm picking up here. I would say this, like, I think you'd be in a position to kind of think it could be true. And if it could be true, well, here are some reasons for it. And then that's also examining what I've already believed. Like, do I have good reasons for naturalism?
Well, sorry to interrupt. When you say that I think naturalism true, you mean that I'm in the mind state that I think there's good evidence for naturalism being the case?
I'm wondering.
Oh no, I don't know. I don't think that. No,
okay, then yeah,
I'm not convinced of that.
That's the thing. Like, so I would take an agnostic position to that as well. Agnostic just means, kind of a default withholding. It's neither. So I look at it this way, that the agnostics would be kind of the middle, neutral position, and then over here would be like supernaturalism, and over here would be anti-supernaturalism, namely naturalism, non-supernaturalism. So you're defaulting obviously to this one, and I'm encouraging you to default to here. Like, instead of just saying, okay, maybe you don't think the supernatural exists, but why are you defaulting over here to saying that it doesn't exist and that only the natural world can exist, and only natural things can happen? But I would rather be to a place of like, my default kind of epistemic state when I approach miracles is not that, oh, that's silly. It should be something like, it's possible, right? That would be the more neutral position, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. But that's, I guess, sorry, I probably didn't articulate myself well. So
sure.
why I kind of brought up the supernatural story is that if I was to kind of, let's just say I was somehow able to shift into, believing that, in the supernatural is a thing wholly, or however, whatever the right wording is, I would be more likely to believe the black magic claims versus the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But then people would, but that's where my issue was. Then people would say that that's preposterous. Why do you believe that? While they would then say it's much more plausible to believe in this supernatural claim. So I guess that's kind of thing I'm also trying to investigate for myself.
I think you said earlier, was it because you said it was because it was more recent? It's like a modern
example? Well, I guess I've got more recent testimonies, and I'm clearly biased by having lived in that culture and having been influenced by a lot. So it must be that.
Yeah.
So I mean, my issue is that investigating the supernatural, because people would say that I shouldn't even bother investigating the black magic, and that's just wrong. But Christianity, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but that's what some people might say who believe in supernatural things. So I was kind of just thinking, what is the best way to go about this in a sincere and
So I can imagine that people would, especially people who are like Christian and really scared, they'd be like, oh, don't go into the black magic. Obviously, understandably, they would take that position. So that's maybe why you're hearing that. Don't accept that. You should accept Christ. Obviously, they're going to say that. But just from the perspective of an epistemologist here, without my Christian hat on, I'd say take the same epistemic stance with respect to both. Like, it's possible the supernatural could occur here. It's possible the supernatural could occur here. If that's that should be your default state. If you have, look, if you had positive arguments for naturalism, then that's no longer a default because you've moved beyond the default. But like, if you're just starting and you have no positive arguments for naturalism, no positive arguments for supernaturalism, in order of method, your default starting point should be, it could happen.
Yeah.
And so, and it should be no difference as to whether one happened in the modern age and the other happened in antiquity. No difference as to whether, just with respect to possibility, no difference as to whether I've lived in that culture or I haven't lived in that culture. Now, those things become relevant, though, once you start to account for other pieces of evidence, right? It's like, okay, now this has more weight and credibility to it because of this, and this. That's fine. But like, we're just talking about bare possibility at this point. Just the fact that it's possible, you should hold that both are possible just from a pure epistemic point if you have no positive arguments for naturalism. Does that help at all? Is that
I think no, I think I was thinking that even before I got on the call with you, I think that should be kind of, so I shouldn't even if like when I use the example of someone coming from Japan and talking about something, I shouldn't just put that off the side because it's just an alien culture and or religious kind of experience or whatever.
If you're a seeker of truth, which we all should be, and you seem like you are, I hope I am, then I mean, you're just trying to get to the truth of these things and not trying to just prejudice it, based on, well, I don't like that story, or I'm more familiar with this culture, even if it's an alien culture, like from Japan, whatever, man. If the supernatural, if you think it's possible and you're at a neutral point with neither believing nor disbelieving, you just hold it open. Like, it could happen.
That's
such a conservative point. That's such a conservative starting point too. Like, and that's not to say that you have to remain there. You know what I mean? It's not to say that it's possible means that I'm always going to think it's possible. You might get to the point where you're like, but I think it's a fairly responsible starting point.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think I mean, I agree with you on the, pursuing kind of the truth and trying to find it. But I also think, I mean, this won't be more for myself, but I think at the moment I'm in a kind of, if you want to say the cliche, on a journey, but I'm trying to kind of figure out, like, I'm also trying to, when I'm learning about things, whether it's, let's say, about Christianity or Buddhism, I want to also learn it. Like, I mean, I'm never going to be an expert in everything or specialist in everything. It's impossible. But I want to reach, like, let's say I'm exploring the supernatural, various religious claims and whatever. So if I'm talking about Buddhism or something, I want to be able to at least know it that well that if I'm explaining it to a sincere, like, let's say I'm talking about Catholicism to a Catholic, and when I'm giving my understanding, they say, like, oh yeah, you understand, you've got a decent understanding of it, and you're not like straw manning it or something. So I want to. That's what I want to do. So I want to, because I hope with getting a good understanding and being sincere in the pursuit of that, and then maybe something will click, or maybe something will never click. But at least I'm trying, being sincere about it. Yeah, because like I'm thinking with the I was thinking when I was thinking to the exchange you had with Justin. I mean, you came across as insincere, and I mean, you kind of, sorry, not insincere. Did I say insincere? Sorry, I meant sincere when you were doing it, and I could see in some points it was hard to, maybe you felt different, but sometimes it was hard to keep your cool with the way he was going out. But you did it quite well. But the way he came across, it was that, the debate bro, the kind of scoring points and playing to the audience, which I just, because I say it on both Christian, Muslim, atheist, various channels. It's just, it doesn't appeal to me. So I mean, that's why when I saw your show for the past couple of weeks, I was like, oh, it's a breath of fresh air, if you want to say like that.
That's what we keep trying to do in here. And I think, like I said this before, that like attracts like. So if what you put out there into the world, you're gonna reap. And like, I've never on as long as I've been doing these live call-in shows, I have never had somebody get on. I've had some people, one guy who's a crazy, you can find video of that if you want, but like, and it took me a while to realize that, and I haven't had him back on, thankfully. And like, everybody in the YouTube circle realized, oh, this guy, because he'll even admit, he'd be like, I've done a lot of drugs, but now listen to everything I say, and it's like, so like, so barring that one example, I certainly haven't had anybody on here who's been aggressive, but like almost everybody calls in disagrees about something. But I think it's because you project that certain attitude out there, you're going to get the same people. And I think it also reflects that the people who are really aggressive, there's some things we could say here about, like, there have been studies on online anonymity and then and higher levels of aggression and narcissism and stuff. But I think that it's very telling, because when you have a call-in show, those people aren't the ones that are likely to come on. They are the people who just jump into the comments because they can do the thing and just leave and not have to worry about the consequences. But it's people like you and everybody that comes on here, like, I'm really interested in truth. I really want to know how to work out this thing or whatever, So mad props to you, man. That's really, I respect that a lot. I really, really do. And so I can really tell that you're a seeker of the truth. And like, I say that, like, I say that, and we don't even agree on a lot of things, so that's fine, but like, it's nice to see a fellow truth seeker. That, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, friendship is just it's about more than, I mean, I'm not saying we're bosom buddies here, but I'm just saying, because like, I think my best friend is since school is a Catholic, lifelong Catholic, so it doesn't make any like, that doesn't, like, it is more to it than just we should have the same beliefs or anything like that. As long as we, I guess, I mean, friendship is not always like, tick box exercise, and it's sometimes mostly more intuitive, isn't it? Like when you've got good friends with someone, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, good to see you on the right road with having a Catholic friend. Maybe he'll invite you into the church somehow or something.
Well, we'll see.
So, we'll see. Yeah. Well, man, it's been a pleasure. We'll wrap up here soon. So, any final thoughts you want to end with, and then we have to have you back on, and if you want to talk about anything else.
Oh, I mean, I definitely have more I want to discuss, but I just thought I came with that supernatural bit, because there's some things. My thought. I mean, I guess everybody's got a theory or some sort of hypothesis about the state of philosophy or state of this and that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah.
I'll come with something, and you can then just
Good.
hand it down.
There is always more. There is always
Yeah.
more. Yeah. So, all right, man.
Okay.
Well, please
Thanks a
to
lot.
come back, and we'll talk to you later.
Will do. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Bye.
See ya. Yeah. Well, good guys. I'm probably gonna wrap up early, but I'll look at a couple of these comments here. My best friend Jesus. I'm gonna read that as Jesus. I know what you're doing, Nathan. You're hilarious, but I don't mind the Catholics. That's really funny. I assume you're talking about Jesus, but you could be talking about your Mexican friend Jesus or something. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna wrap up here. I'm gonna go have dinner with the wife, everybody, and thanks for staying. And we had a really enjoyable session here. Next time we will meet same time, same day of the week, and hopefully between now and then I will get that video out on contradictions in scripture. If that interests you, please be on the lookout for it. And if you're subscribed, of course, and have the notifications, ring the bell and everything, it can notify you as well. But so yeah, and then of course look out for me on my other socials. Like I'm on X, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, and so on. And then once I get up to I think once I get up to like 1,000 on TikTok, I'm gonna have like call-ins on there. But I might start having like a dual camera and go live on there as well, because I'm not live on there right now. But in any case, guys, that's all for us today. It's all the business items I have as well. Good luck on everybody's midterms if that's what you're doing. I know that some people who are watching are doing midterms at this time of year, and so I certainly am giving them. I'd much rather be on this end than on the receiving end. And I've had enough of that in my 15 years of school, so I'm done, and I'm happy to be done. So anyway, I will see you guys next time. Take care, and bye-bye.